Welcome back to Foot in Mouth. In yesterday's episode, I said I'd be doing Champions League predictions today. I apologize. It's, of course, Premier League football. I don't know how that went over my head as much as it did yesterday. I had no clue. But yeah, it's Premier League football today, tomorrow, Premier League football this weekend. There's obviously a big game happening this week. It's Newcastle vs Spurs. So yeah, all the more reason for me to have not forgotten about this game. We're also going to speak about the FSA Awards. That's where I want to start. It's the Football Supporters Association Awards. It's the largest supporter-driven award ceremony in the UK. Just under 500,000 votes went into it. There should be cause for less debate here than around like the Ballon d'Or or like the PFA Awards, because this is one that's decided by the fans. So effectively, the results should speak for the masses. And I for one, am not complaining. Arsenal did get their first double of the season here because Declan Rice and Alessia Russo won the men's and women's player of the year awards. It's the big ones on the night. And I think it's, very deserved. You look at the nominees in the categories, I think you could make an argument for anybody naturally, as is an award ceremony. But I think overall, not too many complaints around the winners of those big awards on the night. I think it's a nice pick-me-up for Arsenal after the Chelsea result. Definitely needed. Things have been a little bit up in the air ever since then, with a lot of fan debates online. There's even been talk about how Chelsea's goal may or may not have, maybe should or shouldn't have stood because of Enzo Fernandez being in an offside position. I still think that the result was fair on the day. I still think that Chelsea outplayed us, but I do think that it is another sign of how there's a problem with just inconsistencies in the officiating in the Premier League. But yeah, I think, look, with it behind us now, Declan Rice coming into a new game week off the back of winning another individual award. I think that's really good for him. I think Alessia Russo getting this as well is good for the Arsenal women's team because they could do with the pick-me-up themselves after winning the Champions League last season. It's not been great this season. But yeah, the awards happened, and I think it's quite a nice award ceremony to have. There's actually some interesting categories there as well in terms of best podcast, best writer, best journalist. So I think as far as a fan is concerned, even just looking through the nominees, you could find a lot of new content to digest around football, which I think is worth checking out. But yeah, that was the FSA Awards. Let me know if you did pay attention to them. Do you think that someone else deserved any of the awards ahead of Declan Rice or Alessia Russo? Because I would be surprised if you could give me another name more deserving than either of them. But yeah, on to Arsenal's second double of the season. They've announced, at least Fabrizio has, he's given the year we go. Arsenal signing a set of twins from Ecuadorian club, and I'm going to struggle with this name. I please forgive me on the pronunciation. Yeah, we'll give it the old college try. But they've signed Edwin and Holger Quintero, and they are signing from Independiente Del Valle. Independiente Del Valle. But yeah, two Wonderkids from there. Both of them are still 16 years old. They're going to join Arsenal officially when they turn 18. One of them is a right winger. The other one is more a central attacking midfielder who can also play on the left. But by all accounts, these kids look the real deal. And I know that highlight packages on YouTube can be very deceiving, but they look solid. And the academy they're coming from has already produced gems like Moises Caicedo and like Piero Hincapié, who's already at Arsenal Football Club. So I think it's exciting for Arsenal. We haven't invested nearly enough in our youth side of things, and I think that's because we've been producing a lot of players from the academy to come into the first team, but we haven't really invested a lot of money into it like we see from Chelsea and even from Man City and Liverpool, to be fair. Even in Man United have been doing quite a lot of work in the youth department in the last few seasons. But it's nice to see Arsenal finally getting on board that same train. It is something I think that was driven by Andrea Berta, and it is it's a good step forward. It's something that every club I think has to start doing. You want to look to the future. The price of players is only going up in this ridiculous transfer market. So the more players you can produce from your academy, the better. And the fact that this is just another right winger coming to Arsenal and two attacking players, really, I think that's just very good for the club. We don't have enough attacking options, which sounds crazy to say, but we've been starved for years, bro. So the more the merrier. But they look exciting. They definitely look exciting. There's a third double still on its way for Arsenal, of course, and that double is going to be the Premier League and the Champions League. We speak it into existence. But back on to Premier League matters now. We'll get back to business. It's Newcastle vs Spurs. It's a big game. It's a very big game. I think both sides can't really afford to lose. And Newcastle have been finding form lately. You couple that with the fact that Spurs haven't won at Newcastle in the last 5 attempts in all competitions. And I think that this has Newcastle win written all over it. But that may just be being said with my Arsenal cap on, even though it's not on. But yeah, I'm expecting a Newcastle win here. Spurs lost 4 games. They got 1 draw, 3 losses. So taking no confidence into this one. At the very least, they're not playing at home, which helps because their home record is atrocious. What doesn't help is that Newcastle have the complete opposite at home. At home, they are especially good. The only 3 teams to beat them at home this season are Liverpool, Arsenal, and Barcelona. And Spurs, I don't think, is at either of those clubs' levels at the moment. They beat Everton away 4-1 on the past weekend. So confidence is going to be high there. You know, Malik Thiaw, their new defender, is starting to look like a real player. Nick Voldemort is going to be the best striker on the pitch, regardless of how Spurs line up. It's just a lot going in Newcastle's favor, in my opinion, here. Their midfield is going to absolutely dominate, especially if we see another pairing of Polinia and Archie Gray from Spurs' side. If that's the case, then literally Spurs may as well just not even show up for the game. Just take the default 3-0 and forfeit. If you're going to get a Newcastle midfield up against those two, it's going to be laughable. And look, I'm not especially saying that Spurs aren't going to be a threat. You know, Richarlison is in a purple patch. I think when he's in a purple patch, he is a danger. I think that Kudus is starting to look better since he's come back from his injury. I think Bergwall always offers like something going forward as well. I just think that defensively, Spurs are way too fragile at the minute. I think going to St. James Park is hard enough even if you are in form. And I think that, it's just a little bit too much for Spurs right now. I could be proven wrong, of course. I don't think this is going to be a situation where I am proven wrong because, again, Newcastle at home, it's a sure thing, in my opinion. And I'm going to predict rather that Newcastle are going to get a fairly comfortable win here. I'm going to say 3-1 Newcastle. Let me know what you think for this game. Look, either way, it should be a good game. And I think that either side here has reason and merit to win it. But I just think that, I can't look past the home advantage here. I can't look past the form that someone like Nick Voldemort is in. And I can't look past Spurs' latest defeat to Fulham, even though it was at home. I just think that was a real sign of how bad things are. And Newcastle are going to add to that pile of misery. It's time for Arsenal to officially get over that Chelsea draw. And we are playing against Brentford at home this time. But look, we've still got a lot going for us. Still top of the table by 5 points. We're still unbeaten in 17 games. So it's far from doom and gloom at Arsenal. Like I said in yesterday's episode, I think a point at Stamford Bridge is genuinely fine. Just the context of playing against 10 men, that's what makes it sour. But a point at Stamford Bridge is still decent. We have gotten so many tough away games out of the way already this season, bro. Already. We have been to Old Trafford, we've been to St. James Park, we've been to the Stadium of Light, we've been to Stamford Bridge. We have cleared so many tough away grounds. I saw a picture of all the remaining away fixtures for Arsenal, and there's only really 3 that make me especially nervous. Everything else in the climate of how the season is going, how teams look right now, Arsenal should win decently. I'm quite happy at this moment. I can't lie. I think that it's going to catch up with clubs like Chelsea when they have to go to all these tough away grounds. But I think that it's the league is starting to shape up quite nicely for Arsenal. I know that this weekend we've got Aston Villa away, so this Brentford game is a very good pick-me-up after the Chelsea game. You don't want to go straight to Villa Park. And, all due respect to Brentford, but similar to Newcastle versus Spurs, I think that home advantage here is going to absolutely be the main reason why we win. That is just on paper, of course, and football's not played on paper. But the big questions in this game going into it, I think, is going to be, does Gyökeres start over Mikel Merino, And also, does Odegaard walk into the first team? Does he start over someone like Eze? And look, we'll start with the striker situation. I think Mikel Merino, obviously, he's not the 60+ million pound striker that Arsenal signed. He was bought for midfield, and he's done a job at striker. But I think he's just done way too good a job to drop for this game. And look, his goal against Chelsea, that was his 20th goal for Arsenal this year in 2025. It was his 28th goal contribution for club and country this year. This guy is in ridiculous form. And even if he isn't getting goals, he does offer something in the midfield because of how deep he drops. I just think that it's one of those things where it's like, take advantage of it while it's happening. Don't take him out of this moment right now. So I know that Victor Gyökeres has made his return to the team. He came on from the bench. I just don't think that this is the game to rush him back for. I would much rather start Mikel Merino, let him continue. I think Arsenal play very well with Mikel Merino as a striker. He plays very differently to Gyökeres. So I like what I'm seeing from Arsenal now, despite the recent draw. I think that Mikel Merino is good value to start just because of his goals and assists record currently. It speaks for itself. And I do also think that Gyökeres, like everybody else, should earn his way back into the team. I think that by all means, get him some minutes because he needs to be fit and firing for the Villa game. But I'd start Mikel Merino in this one. And then on the Odegaard situation, Eze, obviously, I think is playing a lot more minutes than even he expected when he first joined Arsenal. And that's because of injuries that have been happening. I think that Odegaard, he has made 2 appearances from the bench so far in the last 2 games. His fitness levels look like they are back close to where they need to be. I think Eze a little bit on the inverse, but he's been working really hard lately. He had such a testing week last week, and he came through it on top. You know, he obviously did well against Bayern Munich, had a hat-trick against Spurs, but he's playing a much higher level of football than he's used to playing, having been at Crystal Palace for so long. So it's no surprise that he looked quite gas against Chelsea. He didn't have a very good game against Chelsea. And for that reason alone, I think start Odegaard here. I would absolutely start Odegaard. I think Eze will have a role to play from the bench, but I think Odegaard, I don't want his first official start from injury to be against Aston Villa at Villa Park. I think he needs to get a decent amount of minutes under his belt before that game, and I think he needs to also get some starting minutes, to get a feel for like growing into the game rather than coming off the bench with like 10-15 minutes to go. So I would start Odegaard here. Not going to complain if Eze starts. It's just from the outside looking in, I think Eze could do with the rest, if I'm being completely honest. And Eze is also going to have a big role to play in that Villa game. So yeah, I'd start Odegaard. I would start Mikel Merino. I'd keep him in the lineup here. Zubimendi came off early against Chelsea, so I think he starts. It speaks for itself. Declan Rice is a tricky one because I think he has to start. Declan Rice is the best player in the team. But geez, he's been working hard lately, and I would love for him to get a rest. This game seems as ideal an opportunity as it gets to give Declan Rice a rest. I just don't think we can chance it. But I will say, I don't think that Declan Rice should play the full 90. I think he shouldn't play anywhere close to a full 90 minutes here. And I'm hoping that Christian Norgard will be able to get like maybe 30-40 minutes against his former side. He hasn't had many minutes, not even cameos from the bench since he joined Arsenal. He also was out of the injury for a while, but again, I think this is an ideal game for him to play. He's familiar enough with the team to, I think he'll be able to be comfortable in it, and look, he's an international. He's a senior player. He's not going to be like a fish out of water. Like he can do a job in the handful of minutes he's gotten. He can do the basics right, and I think that that's all it's really going to take to get a comfortable win here against Brentford. So yeah, I can see Declan Rice starting. Ideally he wouldn't start this game at all, but we need to start him. I just hope that things go well enough for him to be able to take him off early, because against Aston Villa, he's going to work his socks off again, and he's been doing that a lot lately. I don't want to keep testing that. But he has said that he's in the form of his life right now. So I guess, same like I said, take advantage of Merino's purple patch in his good form. Take advantage of Declan Rice's fitness at the moment, I suppose. Question marks on the left as well. Trossard is back from injury. But if you're asking me, I wouldn't rush him back for this game. I would keep Martinelli starting on the left again. I think that Martinelli is someone so far that has proven to be better from off the bench. But yeah, I'd start Martinelli. I think he's looked good, in the Champions League. I think that he's finding form. He's hot and cold, very much hot and cold. Trossard's been in phenomenal form. I just want to make sure Trossard is 100% fit for the Villa game. That's why I'd say start Martinelli. By all means, bring Trossard on to get some minutes in his legs before the Villa game, but start Martinelli, let him play a majority of the game. On the right-hand side, I think this is where a lot of people may disagree with me, but I would start Noni Madueke. I would start him because Saka got kicked around all over the pitch against Chelsea. And yes, he may be fine, but I don't think we should test it, bro. I think let him sit this one out. We shouldn't need Bukayo Saka. If we are at a point where we absolutely need Bukayo Saka to win against Brentford at home, against 10th place Brentford at home, then there are bigger problems that we have to worry about. The team should get a win without Bukayo Saka here. And I think Noni Madueke, also having come back from an injury recently, he could do with more minutes himself. This is an ideal game for him to get minutes. It's a home game for us. The pressure's off. We're going to have a lot of the ball. It's also why I think that Norgard would be a fine option if he starts over Declan Rice. But yeah, I think give Bukayo Saka the rest. Against Aston Villa, it's going to be more kicking for him, and he's going to also be needing to work a lot harder in that fixture. So give him a rest where you can. This is a game where I think you have to take advantage of it. Same goes for the right back, bro. At right back, I would start Ben White. Ben White needs to start. It is time for Ben White to get a start. He's barely played any minutes for Arsenal this season. Timber is obviously keeping him out the team. It's not that he's barely played minutes because like we can understand why. But I think Timber is also another player that's working. So I'm almost just nervous that we just keep taking advantage of these players' fitness at the moment, and then something's gonna happen, bro. Touch wood. I just don't like it. Again, I think that Ben White is someone that we are going to need to rely on in the next few weeks. I would rather he isn't coming into a game cold. He's barely got any match fitness to his name right now. He needs the minutes. He absolutely needs the minutes. So give Timber a rest. You're not going to feel that much of a quality drop off because Ben White is a quality player. Give him a start. And I think it would help having Ben White play there because he's a senior player. He's seasoned in this Arsenal team. And I'm fully expecting a centre-back partnership of Nketiah and Mosquera again. So I think it's going to help to have a level-headed, senior, experienced player like Ben White on the right. All due respect to Yuri and Timber, but Timber is always fucking off on his own, doing crazy things up top in midfield, dribbling past players for crazy reasons. Like, Ben White is Ben White. We know what he does. We know what he doesn't do. I think that he will help solidify that back line a little bit. And then at left back, I would honestly give Miles Lewis-Kelly another start as well. I think that he's better defensively. I think Calafiori also leaves the back line a little bit exposed because he's so adventurous when he's on the ball. And it's not that it's a bad thing. I just think that while we've got a centre-back duo of Nketiah and Mosquera, it's only going to be the second time they start together. Let's just solidify that back line. And again, that shouldn't be the make or break. It shouldn't be the reason why Arsenal do or don't win against Brentford, if we're being honest. And then David Raya, obviously, he's in goal. 100% speaks for himself. I feel like I am absolutely sleeping on Brentford here. They haven't looked terrible lately. I just think that they look better at home. Away from home, they are far from a great team. And I think the fact that the away from home for them this time around is the Emirates just makes things even tougher for them. So, yeah, I'm going to be respectful in the prediction because they are a professional football club and they have professional football players that deserve respect. But I'm going to say Arsenal are going to win this one 4-0. I think it should be comfortable. It's going to be a bit of a statement heading into that Aston Villa game. That game's going to be tough for us. This one is the warm-up. And yeah, I'm expecting us to pass with flying colours. Let me know what you think for this game. Liverpool versus Sunderland could be tricky. And I say it could be tricky because, of course, if you've been watching the show this season, I've been backing Sunderland every single week. Love what I'm seeing from this club. I think it could be tricky because Liverpool still look kind of shaky, even though they did get a win against West Ham. They still look kind of shaky. Sunderland did really well to come from behind to beat Bournemouth 3-2, right? They've shown so much fight on and off this season, mostly on. They beat Chelsea at Stamford Bridge not too long ago. So I think going to Anfield against this current Liverpool team is not as scary as it once was, earlier in the season maybe. And I think that Sunderland are going to back themselves. I think they're going to back themselves. They're going to go to Anfield and play like a team that backed themselves. And we speak things into existence here. I'm going to back them to at least leave with a point. I'm going to back them to get a 1-1 draw here. I think Liverpool obviously will be favourites, understandably so. It's going to be interesting to see if Salah gets dropped again. It's going to be interesting to see if Isak gets dropped. I think that Arne Slot is finally tuning things at the moment. They looked way better against West Ham, must be said. But I think Sunderland are definitely a better team than West Ham. They'll be a bigger test for Liverpool. And while I wouldn't be surprised if they did get the win, I am going to predict a 1-1 draw. And staying with West Ham, they are playing Manchester United at Old Trafford. It's a game that I think is featuring two sides that have way more losses than they should have to their names. And I also think that Man United coming into this off the back of an away win against Crystal Palace makes them immediate favourites, if the fact that it was at Old Trafford didn't already. I think West Ham, while they have looked better lately, I mean, look, yes, they lost to Liverpool, but before that loss, they won around like 1 draw, 2 wins. They had some big wins even. They had a win against Newcastle. So their fortunes changed. They're not going to want to rush to back-to-back defeats in the league again. So they're going to have something to play for. That being said, Manchester United, all the expectations, all the pressure is going to be on them. We've seen them absolutely bomb against 10-man Everton, then beat Crystal Palace 2-1 and look good doing so. But one thing that we know about Manchester United right now is that consistency is but a word. I don't think it guarantees them getting anything from West Ham. I'd love to say that West Ham are just going to take points off Manchester United here, but a part of me does still think that some things in football are inevitable. Man United beat West Ham at home way more often than not. That speaks for something. And I'm going to begrudgingly go with a Manchester United win here, but I think it's going to be narrow, and I'm going to say United win this one 2-1. And then for the rest of the fixtures, we got Bournemouth at home to Everton. That could be a very interesting game. Two sides that could be doing better, that could be showing more. Bournemouth, they've slumped a little bit lately. They started the season very strong, hit a little bit of a slump, but I think they can get to proper winning ways against Everton here, albeit, Everton can be a threat of their own. But I think, yeah, Bournemouth, home advantage. I'm going to go with them winning this one 2-1. Fulham is at home to Manchester City, and I think that there's a lot of potential for an upset here. A lot of potential for an upset. We've seen Man City drop points against teams that they shouldn't. We saw them almost drop points to Leeds last time out. Fulham, on the other hand, they beat Spurs away, so they're going to have a chip on the shoulder. They have taken points off Spurs before, or, this is a different city, this is a different Fulham, but it's happened before, and I'm banking on it happening again. I don't think that City look at the races. I think that this is going to be... I'm not doing myself any favors with these predictions. I've gotten a few wrong, but I'm going to predict the Fulham win here. I'm going to predict Fulham winning this one 2-1. Speak it into existence, boys. That's what I'm living off of right now in these predictions. Arsenal have had some very, very favorable Premier League weekends and weeks this season so far. So why can't it continue again? I'm backing Fulham for a win there. Brighton at home to Aston Villa. This is another one where I'm backing Brighton to cause an upset. I need Villa to drop points before they play us next weekend. I'm going to say Brighton win this one 2-1. I like what I see from Brighton this season again. I feel like I kind of wrote them off at the beginning of the season, but in recent weeks, they have quietly started to show signs of being way better than I had expected, and I'm backing them to keep it up and we beat Aston Villa 2-1. Burnley at home to Crystal Palace. Fair play to Burnley. They're giving it their all this season. But I think the Crystal Palace are going to comfortably win this one 2-0. Wolves at home to Forest. I think it's going to be the most boring game on the card. Could be the complete opposite. But from where I'm sitting right now, it looks like it's going to be a snooze fest. I'm going for a 0-0, which we haven't had many of this season. And then lastly, Leeds to Chelsea. I would love to predict an upset here, but this is one where I just can't see it happening. Chelsea are going to be without Caicedo, though. So considering the performance Leeds put in against Manchester City, there's every chance that they can cause problems for Chelsea. I just think that, everything about what I saw in the Arsenal game is just like, this is going to be... It's another London derby. So if Chelsea are going to play against Leeds like they did against Arsenal, with or without Caicedo, they should come out on top. And I'm going to go with the Chelsea 2-1 win. That does it for the video. Thank you for sticking with it. If you have made it this far in the video, I am on the road to 200 subscribers before Christmas. That's the goal. If you haven't already and you can help me reach that target, I really would appreciate it if you do subscribe. Thank you again for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, leave it a like. That also helps the channel. And I'll catch you in the next one.